Hi guys, welcome back to the Funky Evolution Party. I'm Alice Green. Happy International Women's Day to everybody out there. Because, with all this gender war that's been going on and the celebration of women and the awards or the Hershey's chocolate bars and all of this stuff that has been literally thrown down our throats, when there's some real issues that are going on out there with women who aren't able to get educations, who are still subjected to being in abusive relationships, and all the rest that comes along with, I wouldn't, the best way for us to actually break things down and take a deep look into what it means to be a woman, what it is to be a female, what it means from a wider context within society, and how oppression for thousands and thousands and thousands of years have led to not just toxic masculinity but also toxic feminism. So I'm going to start with a joke, because I think when you're tackling such controversial subjects, it's best to start a bit light. So I'm going to tell you guys my theory that I came up with quite a few years ago. Maybe, I spend far too much time sitting around thinking, or maybe I've actually got the formula. But basically it goes like this, when you're reading the Bible, there's always Adam and Eve, and then you got Lilith, who got thrown out of... Okay, let's start with Lilith, because apparently she was Adam's first wife and she didn't obey him. Naughty, naughty Lilith. And she got thrown out of the Garden of Eden, and then he married Eve, which, if you want to believe that story, that's fine, but I highly doubt that God would do that. So this is my theory on how it worked. He's like, right, I've created this amazing galaxy and this great planet. Now what am I going to do here? It's going to need some maintenance, it's going to need some work. So he's like, okay, some clay. And he created man. And he's like, it's all right. It's pretty cool. It's shape and size. He's like, but I got a lot of delicate things in this world, tiny, tiny insects through to... So we're going to need something big to sort of tackle those big jobs, but we're going to need something to sort of focus on the delicate side of things. So he's like, okay, just shorten it down a bit, curve it out a bit more. Might need some extra hands to carry just in case, And he's like, it's looking good, but these two brains completely not compatible with one another. So snipped one of them off, made it all out of the one processing unit, and he's like, that's much better. Now the name male is so harsh and a bit German in that respect. So he was like, oh, France, female, and then she was the female. And everyone's like, oh, but the rib. And I'm like, well, you don't throw away good use spare parts from Germany. You reuse and you recycle. And that's what he did. And if you don't believe me, let's take a look at the marijuana plant, which is a very masculine and a very feminine plant. Now, the idea with these two plants is it's fine if you want to create your seeds and create more baby plants. However, if you want strong smoke and bud, and, just don't take my word for it, Google it, you have to basically kill the male or take him very, very far away. So she's not busy trying to produce, but she actually focuses on her strong bud. Now, how does this tie into our society and how things have manifested into today? So when you go back hundreds and thousands of years ago, every single country had a goddess as well as a god. We were equal. There was no masculine, men are getting paid more or doing this more, and the equality that kept crashing and crashing and crashing until we are literally all oppressed. And I don't mean just females are oppressed. Males are just as oppressed as females. And once, when we're all jumping up and down calling equality, 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 let's be equal. Let's look at the masculine and the feminine and look at our roles and how they have played out over centuries to turn us into these completely confused toxic beings. Now, this is going to be part 2, and I'm just doing this for International Women's Day because there are so many layers that go into this, and I think breaking them down one by one is really important. So I'm going to go back into history and look at communities and how sort of marriage was never really a thing. They used to have fertility parties, they used to all work together as communities, they'd have children, they'd all look after them while everybody worked, and that doesn't happen anymore. What happens now is, "Pa, I own you." Okay. You own who? What? Oh, me. You own me. Okay. And that's how our society has generally manifested. So I'm not going to lie to you. I got a pretty sharp tongue, and most people, and it's not just men, but women don't like what I have to say, and I'm okay with that. But if you're not strong enough to actually go, well, I'm going to hold my own on this one, and this is my opinion, and I've got facts to back it up, and if you don't, well, then, sorry, let's agree to disagree. It doesn't always happen in this world. What happens is, she's made me so angry. Pa. Oppression. And you're like, whoa, hold up. You know, that is not the way we are designed as individuals. You know, if you want to go into a little bit more detail, and I will be doing another video on sex and sexuality and why we have our sex organs and the whole point of pleasure. But that is a completely different chunk altogether. So sorry, I'm jumping backwards and forwards here because, again, it's all interrelated, and how we have come into a world where women particularly are so oppressed to the point where there is still lack of education. I think I read the other day that the youngest female to give birth was like 5 years old because she was raped. Like, really? This is sadly where our world is going. And is it fair just because she can give birth that she did? And what happens to that child? And then why do we have more messed up children? Why is it that, you know, in order for me to get any form of attention, it's not about how smart I am. Oh, you don't need an education, love. You just need to be pretty, because the oldest sort of industry for women is prostitution. If I wasn't lucky enough to live in this country, and I was living in a third world country that didn't have a social system or anything that would support me, I would be subjected to selling myself or my children. And that is the harsh reality of what happens every single day. Now, I'm not talking about the spoiled ones that are living on the system and, oh, I have to sell my horse because my kids are all grown up and I don't know. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about real oppression of thousands and thousands of women globally who haven't got a voice, who haven't been offered the chance for an education. If she did say something, she got her head kicked in or locked in a cupboard or pushed so far down that rabbit hole that no one would ever hear from her again. And that is the reality and the facts of our society. Then you've got, because of this oppression of the feminism, it doesn't just affect women, it affects men as well. Because what you're then doing is you're building a society on a one-way system. Now, when that society is built on a one-way system, you're not going to get the flow of traffic. There's going to be traffic jams. People are going to be like, get out of my way. And this is sadly where we've been stuck for such a long time. It's like, oppress. And if we're not oppressing one, we're oppressing the other. And if it's not, you know, it's not always the male's fault and it's not always the female's fault. I seriously blame our ancestors going back again for, it's a lack of disrespect, a lack of foresight for the future. And what happens if you oppress somebody's mother so much? What happens then? Does that mean that the child gets the full love and attention and care that they need? Or does that child learn those behaviors, and whether it be fear, anxiety, being silenced, or actually starting to abuse women because that's all that they know? Now, in order to reverse this, we really have to just take a stop. Take a look at actually our history. And I mean, not the history that's painted a pretty picture for you, but the actual history of, you know, how science determines masculinity and femininity, and why we need both the masculine and the feminine within society to be united rather than divided. And it's not just for our children, it's for each and every single individual.